Everyone, welcome back to the winning characteristics video with Ray from TraderLion. And today we'll be doing an in-depth analysis of Unity Software, ticker symbol U, going back all the way to its IPO days, as well as the recent run-up, the right-hand side of its institutional due diligence phase, talking about position management, routine, so you can basically position in a high potential winner like this stock. And before we get into the video, I do want to mention that we are running a sale on the Leadership Blueprints course from TraderLion, which is the best way to really speed up your learning curve and basically learn how to analyze charts and look for all the qualities that we've researched and done our due diligence on that show that a stock could be a high potential winner. So there's a ton of material here, videos, articles, all of that. So definitely go ahead and take advantage of this $200 off today only. So definitely go ahead and check that out and take advantage of that deal. So with that said, Ray, I'll hand it over to you and let's get started with analysis of Unity software.
So just as we do with any other video in this series, we will go through the process of how this particular name fits our systems, how we could have it on our radars, and then how we could learn the behavior of the name and potentially get some alpha out of it and profit from it. So one of the first things here is how do you get it on your radar, right? How do you get it in your universe? That's really the first thing, is the fact that it traded about $20 million in volume on its day one after the IPO. So that will get it on my IPO watch list. It has the liquidity, and I feel it has the dollar volume on it. So this is how I know if institutions are potentially interested in this particular name to even get it on my radar. The other way is you could go to the Retail Roadshow website and learn about the company, what they do. Is it a theme? Is it part of, something that's really hot in the markets right now? That will give you more insight about, what the company does and probably add to your conviction or subtract from it, given what Unity is. So in this case, this is related to the Metaverse theme, if I'm not mistaken, and just knowing that would have sort of put this name on your radar and given you a slightly added conviction for you to continue to track it or have it on your radar. It has a fairly good IPO week, the first 5 days there, and then you always want to see bigger volume coming in during the IPO week. That tells you folks are interested, they're seeing potential in this name, it's being researched, it's coming up on different folks' radars, and volume is a measure of interest, right? When there's high interest in the name, we see high volume. When there's low interest in the name, or when we're consolidating within a base, the volume tapers off. So that's one of the first things that I see. Has a fairly good week one in the markets, but one of the first things I do see is it builds a character right away, where we want to learn and tune into the character of the name right away. So it runs up, and then if you were to buy it on strength, it scaled back immediately, and then it does that once again where it goes through 100 and then comes right back to 80, right? So there's a character that's developed right away within week one, week two, or week three of how it's trading. So for me, looking at it, really again, we have to build a recipe for us to position in a particular name. And one of the things would be, for it to show RS while the market is going down, right? That's one of the ingredients that we look for to potentially position in a name. And that's exactly what it does right in this area, or this box, is that it's exhibiting RS. Now it's on the IPO watch list, right? Given the 20 million, it's exhibited RS for quite a while as the market retraced back in during that October timeframe last year. This name was bucking the trend and sort of continued to develop its character. The character is, you don't buy this on strength, right? You buy it on strength, you'll get burned. You buy it on strength, you get burned, and you buy it on strength, you'll get burned. So it's developed a character, it's developed the characteristics, it's liquid enough. And then really the first area that this particular name catches my eye is right around here, right? And if I just do this, we could see why in this area we're seeing big price action. We're seeing big price action, big volume, and the fact that the RS line is screaming to new highs while the price is below, right? The price is below its prior high. So that's a big winning characteristic. We call RS new high before price, right? It's bucking the market's coming off of its highs. It's going towards the high of 102.63. And then you sort of wait and see how you get positioned in this. So the third ingredient after you do, it gets on your radar, you see it, it convinces you that this might be a potential winner, is what is your entry point going to be at that? Right now, your focus is, you have everything you need. It's acting like a winner. It looks like a winner. You can visualize it, right? Everything's there. Now it's about how do I enter this name? And the key to that is this has the character of you want to buy this on a pullback and never on strength all the way up. It's run. So after this area, the way I would pick this name would be basically, we have this high volume candle. This is the highest volume since IPO week. You guys could go back, and this is one of the characteristics that we look for at TL constantly, the highest volume since IPO week. And that's what it did. And then it holds that level or that area right around here. So positioning, if I were, actively on top of this name and just, I love the story, whatever the case might be, and all the RS and all that other stuff, it's in a good group, maybe. Other stocks within this particular group were also doing well. At that point, I would position right around that 92, 93 area and place my stops right where the volume came in, right? And then you can see the way it acts. You want to sell strength on this name so that you could anticipate weakness. And then once you sell strength on a name that exhibits this sort of character, right, that will allow you to add back to a position and see if you could get, a consistent run out of it. What I see many traders do is if you fail to learn the behavior of this particular stock, and say you buy it right here, you're going to get burned very quickly because it's going to come in reverse back in, either stop you out or even take you down for a 5% down. It may be below your stop loss at that point. So learning the behavior, how you position in it, even though it's showing characteristics of a winner, this one isn't one of those where it rallies and then goes sideways, right? Rallies, goes sideways. It's one of those where rallies, comes in, rallies, comes in. So learning that and adapting your entry tactics or your execution tactics, it's fairly important. So the two entries that I see is really right around this area and right around this area. These are pullback buys. Just the way the name's trading. This one is a pullback buy, and you have to learn that so that you could generate alpha out of this name consistently. So that's what I see right in here throughout throughout its IPO week, how you could get it on your radar, how to learn the behavior so that you could adjust your buying tactics so that you could make money up from this type of stock. So is there anything you think I missed, Richard?
Yeah, I'll mention a few things. Definitely, you don't want to be buying this through the IPO high. As we mentioned before, at this point, it's kind of in the eyes of the market and it gets super choppy around that level. But if you are more of someone who likes to buy on strength, there are a few spots to get in if you're really watching this closely. The first, which is a pretty short-term entry, you've got a DTL maybe right here. It was really tight before this, which I really like on very low volume, which is very constructive. And also right here as well, you've got a little bit of a push through maybe a very short-term VCP, but this isn't as clean within this IPO base as other stocks we've looked at. For instance, if you watch the PLTR video, that's a much cleaner buy on strength within its IPO base than you. And this definitely is one where if you buy on these pullbacks when it gets really tight against the short-term moving average, as it starts to respect the 21-day and 23 EMA here, and here, that's probably the best way to handle this. But this by no means, I don't think is an easy buy within at these points, but you do get a really nice reward out of it and a nice move as it starts to respect the 10-day. And I think have a 70-80% run from these pullback buy points. So I think that's mostly what I would add.
The other thing is the fact that it's, this whole number concept that we discussed
Yeah.
under the private access is the fact that respect 75, respect 80, 85, 90, 95, right? So just the way that things function, or, observation that I've made over the years is stocks that are controlled will respect their whole numbers all the way up. And this is what this particular stock did, where I feel the action on this name is what I call fairly controlled, right? It will hold the spots that it needs to hold, and then it will work off of those spots right away. Pretty much at this point, we have rising moving averages, right? So you could run this name up if you were to position from 85, 90, or even 95, right? Those three areas after it exhibited RS in this zone, right? So we have a RS zone to work with, IPO volume, volume highest since IPO week on two particular bars. That's enough evidence, and it's in a good group, and it's a sales driven name, right? So this one was a sales driven name. The driver for price was sales. So you drive it all the way up here, and basically you would get two closes below our exit rules, right? Two closes below the 21 day. That takes the thinking out of it, right? So you get those, you at a minimum, you got to scale half at the very least. Given that the way it came in to the KMAs, right? Again, that's just its nature. The way it comes in and it reverses is fairly sharp, and it did that here, did that here. But by the time when you get those two closes, that's right here and right here, right? You exit the stock and the run's basically over at that point. Now, one of the questions I get is what if it stops me out and then it runs up and it goes without me? Well, what it's going to do is it's going to do the same thing that it did to the left. It's going to build out an RS zone, right? It's going to get big volume, and it's going to really set up and give you a sweet spot to buy on another pullback so that you can make money from it. Stocks repeat their behaviors and how they move in the markets. So that sort of mindset of what if it stops me out and goes up and out is sort of not a winning mindset to have in the markets. So
basically, Ray, you're saying that if it's going to be a long-term super performer, it will give you a chance again to enter and manage risk again. That's basically what you're saying there.
Yep. So basically, it will give you multiple chances. Like this one gave you 80, 85, 90, 95. It gave you multiple chances to get in. It was clear as day that there's a bid on this particular name. So it would do the same thing here. If it were to go from 158 to $300, it would have done the same thing, same ingredients. Everything would have been, showing up again. KMAs would have bunched up, right? Price would have came in, tested that, shown RS versus a level, and then gone up and out. But it didn't do that. So at this point, I assume this is some sort of catalyst or earnings.
I believe, yeah.
Earnings that caused this, and then we see that this volume is the highest since its IPO day. So at that point, something's broken, something's happened. It's clearly there's some sort of interest in this name at on this particular day, and when we close at basically the dead lows of the day. So recently, I've been doing a study where basically this is a level of interest. There's a lot of liquidity at this level. It traded about 17.5 million. It's almost like a rebirth, right? Like it IPO'd again, because this was the highest volume since IPO day, and then this was the highest volume since IPO ever. So this is the highest volume ever. So there's some sort of it's almost like the stock IPO'd again or did something that's completely new, and we see what happens after that is basically it breaks down, given that growth went into a correction right into that Feb area, right, as a whole. So we're now trading in that Feb to that March. This is basically when growth was fairly, it just wasn't working. in this area, and the stock basically used that as an excuse to build out a proper, larger base pattern throughout that particular period. The study that I'm doing, just to give you guys a background on that, is basically I'm studying these high volume levels within the base structure. So we started a base up here, right? The first down week is a start of a new base. And this seems to be the highest volume within this base structure, right? So this whole base structure, I'm basically studying these levels because I've seen quite a few stocks rally up and out right away after they see such high volume. So that's one of the studies I'm doing to see if this is something that's, the market that's new in the markets, and if the volume becomes a level of interest. It doesn't matter if it closes down or up on the day. So once it gets into a base, again, we see emotion, right? Large ranges from 95 to 86, 111 to 98. These are large single day ranges. There's a lot of emotion in this. And that tells you that at the moment, the stock is is being distributed. Because when we're under accumulation, which we'll discuss right here, right, or right here, things get very narrow. Ranges from the high to the low of the day get very small. The stock is tightly held on down days in the markets. Institutions will come in and support the stock on down days in the market, and it will do all the right things that it needs to be doing for a completion of a particular base. So I believe this turns into a cup with handle, if I'm not mistaken. And then this is your cup with handle pivot. This broke out up on volume with earnings. So this was an earnings related breakout, and he really needed to get in right at the 115 spot post earnings after it reported. And then it exhibits that same thing, comes back in, right? Just comes back in. And then it came back in, did a pivot retest of sorts versus this intermediate pivot. And then it's sort of trying to work its way up and out. So within this basing area, what we look for is a couple of things. One is what we call volume anchors, right? And then two is what we call KMA's Launchpad, right? KMA Launchpad is basically when on a 21-day, 50-day, 65-day basis, the stock closes or the KMAs bunch up very close together. And that's usually what we've observed as a sweet spot for stocks to launch off of. So we call that the KMA Launchpad. The other thing is within this particular base, which is this base, after its first down week, or this cup and handle, I guess, base pattern, you want to see where the most volume came in at. So for this guy, seems to be the volume area at the moment. So how it acts around this the next few weeks will sort of dictate how, if it becomes a really big winner and eventually approaches this 175 mark. So there are, these are the few things. This one isn't, this is not leading the markets, but it's working within a base and coming up the right side to go for those all-time highs. So this particular formation is the cup with handle. If you catch that, it's your textbook breakout with volume. Increase post earnings, comes back in, does a pivot retest right around that 115 area. Demand comes back in with volume, right? This is your classic PV, case of PV. As it pulls in, volume goes down, gets supported, volume goes up, pulls in again, volume goes down, goes up on rising volume. So the PV relationship after this earnings cycle, after this earnings day, has been classic on this particular name. So for me, I guess what I'm watching right now on this would be for it to sort of hold 130 on down days and really be controlled. That would get the RS line rising as the market comes in, right? And then you build that whole same recipe again. And what I would be doing is always buying this on a pullback.
Mhm.
This is not a good buy on strength because it just doesn't allow you to hold it. So I'd rather buy probably, it comes in maybe to a rising 21 day. That could be the 130 spot, 120 spot. I will buy it versus the KMA. So my risk is very low. I could size it up, see if the volume pattern gets a U, right? Comes in on low volume, and then I want to see it go up on high volume to maintain that PV relationship. So yeah, that's pretty much this fairly quick one, right?
Yeah,
So
I'll add a few
yeah.
things. Could you erase your drawings real quick, Ray? So just looking to the left, Ross is always telling me that O'Neill would always look to the left on the chart and see as the stock approaches a significant level how it acts. And basically, right on this week, we've got kind of high volume without further price progress to the downside, which is actually a sign of accumulation. Obviously, the opposite if it's kind of churny action up here, high volume without further price increases, that's distribution. But here we've got a little bit of accumulation, and then we get a nice push off that level. And then as we saw right here within its IPO advance phase, we see it start to respect the short term 21 day and 23 EMA. So a little bit of a character change, positive character change. And then we had double inside weeks right here before this small breakout last week. So yeah, I'm with Ray. I'm watching to see how this respects the short-term moving averages. Once the overall market pulls back somewhat, let's see if RS develops as it tries to make its way up towards all-time highs and maybe gives us another chance to get in to this potential name. We've also got a gap right here that has yet to be filled. And also, as Ray was saying, this 130 level, 129 level is pretty significant because it also is that volume maker. So that's just a few things that kind of catch my eye. And this overall chart pattern, you can call this an inverse head and shoulders, whatever you want to say, but it does look overall pretty constructive as it's forming higher lows here.
And the only thing I would add is we saw a step up in daily average volume right here, which tells you, like, as it bases out and eventually comes out of this area where it saw an increase in volume, there's could be net accumulation within the base because institutions, the way they accumulate stock, they rarely, if ever, are buying, like continuously buying it up. They rather accumulate within a particular consolidation, and then when the price marks up, they're usually the ones that trimming back their positions as the price is marked up. So this tells you that there's significant interest, and maybe this could be a big future winner, given that it went through this, this zone where there's a lot of volume, and then volume basically means there's a lot of interest in this name. So this wasn't one, this is not your GME type, because this is a proper company, right? And they're sales driven. So given that institutions would have that on radar and they're doing estimates or whatever the case might be in the longer run, this shows you that there's interest in the name and there's a lot of volume in this area over the span of three months, basically. So.
And we've seen a lot of last year's winners came out of a pattern similar to this, where a stock is moving up to the right hand side of where its IPO advance phase stops. So we'll see if that proves true once again with Unity. And Ray, it's probably worth mentioning, if we go over to Marcus Smith quickly, this stock also has pretty good fund sponsorship numbers. If you look over on the right hand side, we've got a steady increase overall and one high quality fund in there as well. And as we mentioned, this is a sales-driven name, about 40% increase quarter over quarter. The estimate revisions, that's one knock against it for me a little bit, are down in terms of annual EPS. But once again, a lot of these software names follow sales a lot more than earnings. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. Ray, do you want to do a quick recap of all the concepts we talked about?
Right. So how do you pick up the name? You maintain a IPO watch list of sorts, right? The whole retail roadshow could be something that will help you out in terms of how you learn about the name. You learn the behavior of the stock, right? Learning the behavior of the stock is important. This is a pullback buyer type name where it comes in so that you could buy stock and lower your risk on this particular name. It did that recently as well. It came in.
Mm-hmm.
It came in before it goes. Three, we talk basically the step up in daily average volume tells you the fact that there's a lot of interest within this base. And when it comes out of this particular base, and we see a markup in price, that tells you the potential run up could be for several weeks, if not months. The other thing we talked about is to look at characteristics, right? Characteristics we talk about was the highest since IPO week. So this is your first one, highest since IPO week, highest since IPO week. That's a volume flag, right? With high closing ranges. We talked about the RS, right? That's always, RS, highest since IPO week. And then we also talked about the KMAs bunching up right in this spot with, on a 21, 50, and 65-day basis. The KMAs were building a launch pad so that the name could go up and out. Just knowing these three characteristics and looking for them in the markets, I could guarantee you will make you a profit. These will make you good profit because these are visual signs that are on the charts and you can't really make them up at all, right? So you see these are visible characteristics. You learn the behavior of the stock. You get it on your radar, on your universe watch list. And just these three things alone, if you do that repeatedly again and again and again, and the markets will result in you having a higher equity curve as you go. So
Perfect. And if you really want an in-depth walkthrough of basically all these characteristics that we talk about, definitely go ahead and check out Leadership Blueprints. Once again, we're running a sale, $200 off today only on Labor Day. So definitely click the link that should be popping up right now, as well as down below in the description. So with that said, thanks for watching. Remember to leave a like down below if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and we'll see you guys in future videos. Thanks.